toolbox of Java environments for getting data into our applications. In previous lessons, we hard-coded values in. We set like age equal to and put a number in there. That's called hard coding. We also had the user input some information, so user interaction. But now we're going to start reading data from outside the Java code. And later on in the courses, you will get to the point where we read in from SQL databases or from the website for websites using APIs, but for now we're going to read in from text files. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a text file in our folder. So in our project, I created a week 3-files project name. I'm going to right click that particular project, and we're going to go to new file, not a class, not a package. We're just going to create a normal file here, and we're going to call it tst test.txt for text files, tst.txt. And when it gets created, it looks like it's actually creating it in the source folder, but if I go ahead and minimize the source folder, you'll see that it's actually outside the source folder. It's at the root of our project. So we still have our JRE system folder and our source folder, and test sits outside of that. In there, let's go ahead and put a couple names. So we'll use Bob, Mary, and Todd, and Alice. So go ahead and create a couple pieces of information inside there. And we're going to go ahead and save it. And I want to close it. I don't want to leave it open at this point because eventually we're going to want to write to it. And if it's open, it creates a little bit of problem because the file's already being owned by someone else. We're going to go ahead and close that part. But I do have a class inside of here called start. So if you see under source, you'll see there's start class there. It's already created in a package. I'm going to go ahead and create a method. We're going to create public, and it's going to be void, and we're going to go do what's called read file. And later on, we'll create a write file. Let's go ahead and start with our read file. First thing we want to do is we want to create a file object, and we'll go ahead and call it file. And using our new keyword, because it's a new object, we're going to create a file, and we give it the name that we want to open, which is the name of the text file that we created just a few minutes ago, tst.txt, which points to that down there. So these two are related. I do have an import for file I need to do, which is going to be our Java IO for file, which allows that to happen nice and neatly. And then I'm going to go down, and we are going to use a scanner object, scanner with two N's. We're going to stick with our naming convention, and it's going to be a new scanner. But this time, instead of doing system in like we've been doing for the previous bunch of lessons, we are going to use the file object that we created right above it. And we have a scanner import that's going to have to happen. So let's go ahead and import that same scanner as the other one. It's a Java util scanner, which is going to create another problem. And I'm not going to talk in depth about the problem that's arising, but let's just say there's a possibility that that file doesn't exist to open, or there's something else preventing Java from opening that file. There's enough chances of that happening that Java requires that we wrap stuff, a couple different options. We can do a declaration, which we're not going to do, but we can surround it with try catch. So I'm going to pick the second option here and do surround with try catch. That's saying we're going to try to open this file, and if we can't, we're going to catch the error that the Java is going to throw. So let's hope we don't get to the catch part of it, but we're going to try to embed that stuff in a try. So if the try works correctly and we get that file open, we can now work our way through the words in the file. So we're going to use a while statement, and we're going to say while SC has a next item, which means there's another word inside of here. Notice I didn't close with a semicolon there. I went ahead and did my braces. So while there's another word there, we're going to system out SC next. We're going to print out the next. We're going to print out the word and move to the next one. And we're going to keep doing this as long as there are words inside of our text file. So if everything is good in that case now, we should go ahead and be able to run this. But I created this method, and my public static void main has nothing in here. So we need to call this read file. Well, the read file is not static, and this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a couple lessons here. So I have this public static void main in its own class, but that doesn't mean that I might not have to create my object of my start class. So we have not been creating objects of start class because we've been moving to other classes pretty quickly, but I can make an instance of the class that holds the main. So I can make an instance of that start, and then I can use it to access my read file. Because if you look here, read file method is not static. So when I don't have a static modifier in my method signature, I have to have an object to get that done. So I went ahead and created an object of start. I called my read file. The read file identifies the test file. It tries to connect to it. And once it's connected, it will keep going through and looping through word by word. So if I run this now, Bob, Mary, Todd, and Alice. Now notice Todd and Alice in this environment are on separate lines because Scanner reads each word. It doesn't necessarily care what line it's on. And when I do my print line down here, it actually prints them all on its own line. If I take the LN out there where I print it and run it, now it'll print it all in one long line, Bob, Mary, Todd, and Alice, with no spaces between it. So even though it looks like they're all on separate lines, it's just the way I'm printing it out. It has no bearing necessarily on the file that's coming in. So anyway, so that's reading a file. Identify the file, connect to the file, and read through word by word using has next, means there's another word coming up. If there is a word coming up, go ahead and print it out using that line. Finish off the loop and keep looping it through as long as there's another word that happens to that piece of it. Okay, next one we'll do is we will actually write to our file. Thank you.